Nassim Taleb es uno de los pensadores más importantes del mundo en la actualidad. Él ha venido a introducir un principio de incertidumbre a la manera en que consideramos ocurren las cosas en la realidad, que ha hecho reflexionar a mucha gente acerca de cómo entender precisamente la incertidumbre en lo que ocurre en México y lo que ocurre en todo el mundo. Él lo ha hecho a través de una serie de libros, uno de ellos es Black Swan, el cisne negro. Hay otro libro sobre un tema similar que es Antifrágil, que tengo aquí conmigo. Lo curioso del caso es que Nassim Taleb empezó como un operador de acciones bursátiles, pero para su propio beneficio. Él operaba sus propias acciones, después se convirtió en matemático y después empezó a ofrecer una serie de libros que dejaron asombrado el mundo intelectual en todo el mundo. Vamos a hacer esta conversación, la podríamos hacer en francés, he preferido hacerla en inglés porque es una lengua que los dos hablamos y mucha gente de nuestro público también podrá entenderlo. Tendremos subtítulos en español. Mr. Taleb, first of all, thank you very much for being with us. You have made us think about the principle of uncertainty. I know that physics has already pushed us to actually think about uncertainty, but what took you to realize that maybe understanding uncertainty would help us understand the world?
A lot of work has been done on uncertainty, trying to quantify uncertainty. And then I realized it was really incomplete. And even worse, it had holes in it in such a way that you can benefit from it. So I started as a trader, arbitraging in the sense that trying to find holes in the models used by
and you were actually very successful.
Well, I mean, I retired. I mean, successful is that you're happy with what you got.
Okay.
Okay. So I retired early, came back, and then I said, okay, I want to start a career as a thinker and author. But in the meanwhile, I went and got a technical degree. Did a doctorate in something very technical, quantitative,
quantitative analysis or quantitative mathematics?
Yeah, as applied, it was a link between probability and finance. And at the time.
By the way, you're Lebanese. You're born in Lebanon.
Born in Lebanon.
Yeah. How come you ended up in the States? How come you?
Okay, so now I went to school in France.
Okay.
And then I went to Wharton Business School. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I wanted to be an author. All right.
Okay.
But I realized you don't study for that thing, so you got to study something else. And then I ended up at the Wharton School, where I discovered options. And it was very easy for me.
The Wharton School is a school that actually specializes on econometrics. Am I right?
And finance, they have all kind of things. So, but I wasn't there then. I was still not very technical at the time. Then became an option trader, and then became technical with time.
Okay.
And I would take time off to study, mathematical modeling, which became easier as I was aging. And I realized, sort of like small little trick. For example, my days, you needed a calculator. You could not use a calculator in exams.
Class, yes.
And then when they allowed calculators, I discovered that the reason I wasn't focusing on math, I missed a career doing math, is because I didn't like numbers.
Okay.
I like models, equations.
Okay.
So something like that, for example. So my career was a trader, where you have contact with reality with some study, and then started writing general public books, and then started writing technical papers. So after I published the Black Swan, Cisne Negro,
El cisne negro, sí.
Cisne Negro in Espanol. So I decided to become an academic. Le Cisne Noir. I decided to become academic.
Okay.
People said, you're crazy. People who do quantitative or technical or mathematical stuff, usually burn out at 25. And you're coming in, you're in your late 40s. And I found it very easy at the time. So I did things backwards in the sense that I traded, then I studied. I wrote general public books. Then I wrote technical books, like this one, Antifrágil.
Sí.
So this one, for example, I'm now meeting co-authors. We're doing technical work.
Okay.
Okay, and the group includes people who do mathematical oncology. So started publishing papers in peer-reviewed journals, which I find
Academic work, which usually the academic, or people who write academic works, they dream with having a bestseller like The Black Swan, for example.
it's like, so I did things backwards, and of course in the beginning it was hard to be accepted by academics.
Yes, I can imagine.
Because they said, oh, you're an idiot because you write popular books. And then progressively started getting published, and now I have 80 papers.
But you break the mold all the time. When Black Swan was published, and when I read The Black Swan, it was actually astonishing because it had a lot of information that was surprising, that people haven't talked about before, and you began to formulate this principle of uncertainty, that it's what's unexpected that's really the expected thing.
Exactly, and then but it took me 20 years to write The Black Swan.
Okay.
So from childhood, I knew that was sort of like what was interesting me. So you had to read a lot of books. So I had to figure out how people thought about uncertainty in different environments. And I realized that people who study statistics don't study the theological discourses that talk about probability. So I had to put things together, and it took me 20 years. And then after that, it became easy.
Okay.
So it was technical, philosophical, and then also historiographical. Like, for example, history is pretty much, well, I was interested in history because the interpretation of historical events are always ex post. You see, but so you don't realize how much uncertainty there was at a time. So it looks much more logical after the fact than before.
You've put, if I remember correctly, 4 of your books in a collection called Incerto.
Incerto, five now.
5 now, okay.
Yeah.
So now Incerto means in Italian uncertainty, or
in
not,
Latin.
not certain.
In Latin
as well.
also.
Why did you put them all together?
Okay,
What's the message you want to convey?
No. So after I wanted to write The Black Swan.
Yes.
As one big book, and then before I started writing it, and I had to explain something about randomness. So I wrote my first book, Fooled by Randomness. So it was connected. And let me tell you something interesting about the book. I wrote Fooled by Randomness. I broke every rule. I had autobiographical segments, and I had a character called Nero Tulip. And then I was talking about mathematics, and then I was talking about, and I spoke about philosophy of history, and all these subjects. So nobody wanted to publish it. They said, you're very confused.
Sure.
Okay? But the minute it was published, and I found some publisher that went bankrupt later, all right, who would take it at a distance.
Was that your fault?
Sorry?
Was that your fault that he went bankrupt?
No. It made a lot of money for him, but it was a marginal publisher, that was...
Yes, it was a small publisher in a big world of publishing, yeah?
Yeah, no, small one, and then also I had a bad deal with them, but they went bankrupt, so I got the rights back. And then the minute it hit the thing, people loved reading it. Okay, so basically, I realized that you had an expert problem, that all these people who deal in publishing don't understand the public, what they want. People want anecdotes. They don't want to be completely left out of technical discussions. So it was an interesting experience, the Fooled by Randomness. So I put The Black Swan, I wrote it in the same style, and I realized that you don't want to dumb down. If something is difficult, that's fine, and people love that.
Yeah, let people force themselves to read and to understand.
Exactly. And then continued with uncertainty. I felt like I wasn't finished. So Antifrágil is the best book. For me, it's the most important one.
This one here.
Yes. About how systems deal with disorder. And then, of course, Skin in the Game came later. And there's a book of aphorisms in the middle that make it 5 books. And there's one coming, if I ever, stop publishing scientific papers. There's one coming.
You seem to be having a lot of fun publishing scientific papers.
Yeah, I have a lot of fun publishing scientific papers because you go into, now the last 4 were in genetics, all right? You take
Are you affiliated to any university? Or
yeah, I was a distinguished professor at NYU, and now I'm at the American University in Beirut to encourage Lebanese to go study there. But scientific papers are a different animal because they're read by, this is going to be read by friends.
Yes.
I write a book like that, friends are going to read it. I write scientific papers, most of them are only read by people who want to hurt you, by your enemies.
Okay.
So it sort of like makes it fun.
Well,
because,
and then your peers read them and complain about them, but then you defend yourself and then you have a discussion.
Exactly, yeah. So a lot of them are trying to put, sort of like either they feel threatened by your, hey, my idea, he's saying it, or they try to prevent you from being published. So that's fun for me, and I enjoy it.
Nassim, you have a president in the United States called Donald Trump. Is he a black swan? Is he
He's not a black swan because we had Caligula before.
Oh, I
mean,
see.
Crazy rulers who come in
Yes.
out of the blue. But we've had, nobody understands him because it's very hard to be his friend. Mm-hmm. He made it hard because on one hand, he came as no more wars, and now look what he's doing with the Houthis. It's like he wanted to restart Afghanistan. Mm-hmm. He's saying he didn't come on a platform of starting a tariff wars, mm-hmm. right? We have globalization. We depend so much on.
Well, he did say that tariffs were good, but there's no indication that they're good.
No, we have no idea.
He had no idea of what he was doing?
He has no idea what he's talking about. Mm-hmm. He knows it. Yeah. He just throws this, hey, let's experiment. He doesn't really care. He doesn't have, you're dealing with a gentleman who has no friends. Mm-hmm. So you got to realize that I would be embarrassed thinking the economy later mm-hmm. because I have, my friends would be hurt. Okay, he doesn't really care.
Now, Caligula was one of the, perhaps the cruelest and most erratic of all the Roman emperors. And you're actually saying that Donald Trump is...
I'm saying that someone who comes out of,
out of nowhere?
Unexpectedly out of the mold, all right? Yeah. Caligula was within, his normal, sort of like...
Well, there was Caligula and there was Tiberius and then there was Nero and they were pretty crazy all over.
Yeah, that's true. So we had... No, but we have crazy emperors.
Yes.
In Rome. But my point is that with Trump, is that there's good things about the Doge. Mm-hmm. Okay, conceptually, it's very good to make bureaucrats accountable for Okay, it's a good thing. Yeah. But tariffs are crazy. The annexation of Canada is a lunacy. All right, now Canadians are united against the United States. Okay, and then also with Greenland, it's even worse. Mm-hmm. So people wake up every day saying, "Hey, what's going on?" Meanwhile, we forget what's going on. That China, in the meanwhile, keeps rising. Mm-hmm. Okay,
and that's not a black swan. That's
and that is. I mean, China was. China and India were 2/3 of the world economy, mm-hmm. okay, in the 17th
century. And in the 18th century, or in 17th, 18th century, just before they actually isolated themselves, before they started fighting against globalization.
Exactly. So the Chinese, there's something about China. People don't realize. When I wrote The Black Swan, China was 5% of the world economy, mm-hmm. and U.S. and Europe were approximately, what we call Europe now, 21% of the world economy, PPP. Yeah. China today is 25% of the world economy, and that may be an understatement if you look at price, adjust by prices. And U.S. and Europe are 15% of the world economy. Mm-hmm.
China has been advancing at a great pace.
Yeah, but other places as well. Turkey used to be 1% of the world economy. Now it's in PPP converging on France and Britain. They're declining.
That's interesting.
So Kazakhstan is growing. Even Iran is growing, not slowly. So we have the U.S. and Europe are going back to what they were mm-hmm. before the discovery of America, the discovery of the Americas by Europeans. Right?
Yes, that's right.
Already there. So one comment I wanted to make is that the economic center of gravity of the world used to be along the Silk Road which is why the Roman Empire picked its capital there, moved its capital there, Constantinople.
That's right.
So something tells me that we need, of course, we need to figure out what's going wrong with the West. But Trump's solution are diverting us from dealing with that central problem.
Nassim Taleb, thank you very much for inviting us to read your books, Antifrágil, The Black Swan, and all the rest. Y a usted que hace posible este programa se lo agradezco. También estamos transmitiendo desde la reunión de la Mont Pelerin Society en la Ciudad de México, cuyo anfitrión es el grupo Salinas y Caminos de la Libertad. Nos vemos la próxima.